Ah, look who just rewrote the entire playbook with 2 syllables. Hello to the masters of unbothered energy, the architects of silence, the ones who learned that sometimes the most devastating weapon in your arsenal isn't a paragraph, isn't a comeback, isn't even a carefully crafted response. It's a single word. Okay. 2 letters that somehow collapsed their entire empire, shattered their confidence, and left them staring at their phone at 3 a.m., wondering what the actual hell just happened. They threw everything at you, didn't they? The guilt trips, the manipulations, the theatrical performances designed to pull you back in, the carefully constructed narratives meant to make you react, to make you explain, to make you fight. And you just said okay. Not okay, but let me explain. Not okay, however. Not okay, I understand, but just okay. Period. End of transmission. Conversation terminated. And somehow, that single word did more damage to their reputation than any argument ever could. You want to know why they're spiraling right now? Because you broke the script. You didn't give them the reaction they rehearsed for. You didn't give them the drama they needed to paint themselves as the victim. You didn't give them the emotional fuel they've been harvesting from you for months, maybe years. You just agreed. You said okay. And in doing so, you revealed something they spent their entire existence trying to hide. That they need your reaction more than you need their respect. That their power was always borrowed from your willingness to engage. That every argument, every manipulation, every guilt trip was just them begging you to prove they still mattered. And when you said okay, you stopped begging, you stopped proving, you stopped playing, you became unreachable. And that is what destroyed them. Because now they're left holding a script with no actor, a stage with no audience, a performance with no applause. Just them screaming into the void, while you walked away with 2 syllables and 0 fucks left to give. Let's rewind to the moment it happened, shall we? They came at you with that energy, that tone, that carefully crafted message designed to trigger you, to pull you into their circus, to make you dance one more time for their amusement. Maybe it was a text, maybe it was a confrontation, maybe it was some passive-aggressive comment in a group chat meant to bait you into defending yourself. They set the trap, laid out the bait, and sat back waiting for you to take it. They were so confident, so sure, that this time you'd snap. This time you'd write the paragraph. This time you'd explain yourself, defend your choices, justify your existence to people who never deserved access to your truth in the first place. But instead, you looked at their message. You read every word. You felt the manipulation dripping through the screen. You recognized the game. You saw the puppet strings. And you replied with the most soul-crushing, empire-destroying, reputation-shattering response in human history. Okay. Not okay with a question mark. Not okay with dramatic ellipses. Just okay, full stop. And then silence. Beautiful, deafening, unbothered silence. No explanation, no justification, no emotional investment, just acknowledgement and exit. And that's when their world started crumbling. You see, what you did in that moment, it wasn't passive, it wasn't weak, it wasn't avoidance. It was the most violent act of psychological warfare you could have possibly deployed. Because okay, from someone who used to care, from someone who used to fight back, from someone who used to explain and defend and justify, that okay translates to something far more devastating. It translates to, I hear you, and I don't care. It translates to, your opinion no longer has value in my reality. It translates to, I've already moved on mentally, and you're just now realizing it. They were expecting war, and you gave them indifference. They were expecting emotion, and you gave them void. They were expecting the old version of you, the one who cared about their approval. And instead they met someone who had already buried that version and moved on without a funeral. The shock of it, the sheer audacity of your unbothered energy, It short-circuited their entire system. They didn't know how to process it. How do you manipulate someone who won't engage? How do you guilt someone who won't absorb it? How do you control someone who won't react? You can't. And that realization hit them like a freight train made of karma and consequence. Now let's talk about what happened next, because this is where it gets beautiful, where the destruction really starts to unfold like a slow-motion car crash they can't look away from. They tried again, didn't they? They sent another message, longer this time, more emotional, more desperate. They tried to escalate, tried to poke harder, tried to find the button that used to work. They asked why you were being like this, accused you of being cold, of changing, of not caring anymore. They threw guilt, they threw history, they threw every manipulation tactic in their playbook. And you either ignored it completely or hit them with another, okay. Maybe you added, thanks for letting me know. Maybe you went with, understood. But the energy remained the same. Unbothered, unmoved, unavailable. And that's when they started panicking, because they realized they had lost their power, not because you took it from them, but because you simply stopped giving it to them. The control they thought they had over your emotions, over your time, over your peace, it evaporated the moment you refused to play. And when manipulators lose control, they don't just get angry, they get desperate. They start making mistakes. They start showing their true colors to everyone watching. Here's what they didn't calculate in their little manipulation equation. When you say okay and walk away, you're not just ending the conversation with them. You're forcing them to have a conversation with themselves. You're leaving them alone with their own thoughts, their own conscience, their own reflection. And for people who've built their entire identity on controlling others, on being right, on winning arguments, that silence is torture. They start replaying the interaction in their head. They start questioning themselves. They start obsessing over what okay really meant. Was it sarcasm? Was it genuine? Was it defeat? Was it victory? They can't tell, and that ambiguity, that uncertainty, it eats them alive. They check their phone constantly. They refresh the conversation. They tell themselves they don't care, but they're checking to see if you've said anything else. They're waiting for you to come back, to re-engage, to give them the satisfaction of knowing they still affect you. But you don't. You've moved on. You're living your life, building your peace, focusing on your own growth, while they're stuck in a mental prison of their own making, analyzing two syllables like it's the Rosetta Stone of their downfall. And everyone around them can see it. They can see the obsession, the desperation, the unraveling. And that's how your simple okay starts destroying their reputation without you saying another word. Because here's the thing about reputation. It's not built by what you say about yourself. It's built by how you carry yourself when others try to tear you down. And when people watch you respond to chaos with calm, to manipulation with indifference, to attacks with, okay, they start seeing you differently. They see strength. They see maturity. They see someone who's genuinely moved past the drama. But when they watch your opponent lose their mind over being ignored, when they see them become obsessive, vindictive, desperate for a reaction, their reputation starts cracking. People start asking questions. Why are they so pressed? Why can't they let it go? Why do they care so much about someone who clearly doesn't care about them? The more they push, the more they expose themselves. The more they try to paint you as the villain, the more they reveal themselves as the aggressor. Because you're not out here writing paragraphs about them. You're not making posts. You're not telling your side of the story. You're just existing, peacefully, successfully, unbothered. And that contrast, that stark difference between your peace and their chaos, it tells everyone watching exactly who was the problem all along. Your silence becomes the loudest testimony. Your okay becomes the most damaging evidence. You didn't destroy their reputation with words. You destroyed it by refusing to participate in the theater they needed to maintain their image. Let's go deeper into the psychology of what's happening here, because this isn't just about one interaction. This is about you finally understanding a truth that most people never learn. The people who need your reaction the most are the ones who deserve it the least. Think about it. Why do they need you to engage? Why do they need you to argue? Why do they need you to explain yourself? Because your emotional investment validates their existence. Your anger proves they still matter. Your defense proves they still have power. Your paragraph proves they still have control. But the moment you say okay and detach, you remove all of that validation. You take away their significance in your life. You demote them from main character to background noise. And for people whose entire sense of self is built on their ability to affect others, that demotion is worse than death. It's erasure. It's irrelevance. It's the realization that they no longer matter enough to warrant your emotional energy. And they can feel it. They can feel themselves becoming nothing in your world. They can feel the shift from someone I care about to someone who exists. And that feeling, that awareness of their own insignificance in your life, it drives them insane. It makes them act out. It makes them desperate. It makes them prove to everyone else exactly why you said okay and walked away. Now, let's address the beautiful aftermath, the part where you get to watch from a distance as everything unfolds without your involvement. They start talking about you, don't they? To mutual friends, to anyone who will listen. They craft narratives, they twist stories, they paint themselves as the victim of your coldness. But here's the funny thing. The more they talk, the more desperate they sound. The more they explain, the more guilty they appear. Because you're not talking. You're not defending. You're not even acknowledging their existence. And that silence, that refusal to engage with their narrative, it makes people question them. If they were really so wrong, why can't they just move on? Why are they still talking about someone who clearly isn't talking about them? Your silence creates doubt in their story. Your peace creates suspicion about their version of events. And slowly, person by person, people start seeing through it. They start seeing the obsession, the bitterness, the inability to let go. Meanwhile, you're over here thriving. You're working on yourself. You're building. You're growing. You're surrounded by people who value you. You're creating the life they told you you'd never have. And every time someone sees you winning while they're still complaining, your reputation grows stronger while theirs crumbles further. You didn't have to say a word. You didn't have to defend yourself. You just had to be proof that you've moved on. And that proof, that living evidence of your growth, it speaks louder than any argument ever could. Here's what makes this whole thing even more satisfying. They thought okay meant you gave up. They thought it meant they won. They celebrated your silence as surrender. They told themselves, and probably others, that you finally admitted they were right. But what they didn't understand, what they couldn't comprehend in their desperate need for validation, is that okay wasn't agreement. It was dismissal. It wasn't surrender. It was strategy. It wasn't weakness. It was the strongest move you could have possibly made, because you didn't give them what they wanted. You gave them what they deserved. Nothing. No energy. No emotion. No explanation. Just a polite acknowledgement that you heard them and chose not to care. And now they're living with the consequences of that choice. They're living with the reality that they lost someone who actually cared, someone who actually tried, someone who actually invested time and energy into the relationship, whether it was friendship, family, or romance. And they lost that person not because of a big fight, not because of a dramatic ending, but because they pushed too far and you simply said, okay, and walked away. And that's the part that haunts them, the casualness of it, the ease with which you let go, the fact that you didn't even think they were worth fighting for anymore. That realization that they weren't important enough for your anger, that's what's destroying them from the inside out. Let's talk about the power dynamics that just shifted completely in your favor. Before this moment, before you said, okay, they held cards. They could guilt you. They could manipulate your kindness. They could weaponize your empathy. They knew exactly which buttons to push to get you to react, to get you to explain, to get you to prove yourself. But the moment you said, okay, you took all those cards out of their hand. You made their tactics obsolete. You rendered their manipulation powerless. Because manipulation only works on people who care about the manipulator's opinion. Guilt only works on people who value the relationship. Emotional blackmail only works on people who are still emotionally invested. And you divested. You pulled your energy out of their market completely. You withdrew your emotional currency from their bank. And now they're standing there with worthless weapons, trying to fight someone who's no longer in the arena. They're throwing punches at a ghost. They're arguing with a memory. Because the person they knew, the person who used to care what they thought, that person is gone. And in their place stands someone who's learned the most dangerous lesson of all, that not everyone deserves your energy, that not every battle deserves to be fought, that sometimes the strongest response is no response at all, or in your case, just okay. And that lesson, that evolution, it's made you untouchable. Not because you're hiding or running, but because you've genuinely transcended the need for their approval, their understanding, or their validation. Now we need to discuss something crucial that's happening beneath the surface of all this. Your okay didn't just affect them, it changed you. It marked a transformation, a moment where you finally chose yourself over keeping the peace, where you finally prioritized your own mental health over their emotional needs, where you finally recognized that some people don't deserve the gift of your explanation. And that choice, that moment of self-respect, it rippled through every area of your life. Because once you learn to say, okay, and walk away from one manipulator, you start seeing manipulation everywhere. You start recognizing the patterns in other relationships. You start understanding which people drain you and which ones fill you. You start setting boundaries without guilt. You start valuing your time differently. You start building a life around people who don't need to be managed, who don't require constant emotional labor, who don't demand that you shrink yourself to make them comfortable. You start attracting different energy because you're operating on a different frequency. The frequency of someone who knows their worth. The frequency of someone who won't tolerate disrespect disguised as love. The frequency of someone who's done explaining themselves to people who were never trying to understand. And everyone can feel that shift. The right people are drawn to it. The wrong people are repelled by it. And suddenly your life starts looking completely different, not because you changed everything, but because you changed one thing. You changed your willingness to engage with energy that doesn't serve you. Let's address the elephant in the room that nobody talks about when it comes to situations like this. The guilt. Oh, the guilt. Because even though you know you did the right thing, even though you know they pushed you to this point, there's still a part of you that feels bad, isn't there? A part that wonders if you were too cold, too harsh, too final with that okay. A part that questions whether you should have explained more, defended yourself better, given them another chance. Let me destroy that guilt right now. You gave them chances, multiple chances. You explained yourself countless times before this. You communicated your boundaries, your feelings, your needs, and they ignored every single one. They didn't push you to okay by accident. They pushed you there through consistent disrespect, manipulation, and disregard for your well-being. Your okay wasn't cruel. It was the natural consequence of their actions. It was the final boundary you set after they violated every other one. And the fact that they're upset about it, that's not proof that you were wrong. That's proof that they took your previous patience for granted. They got comfortable with your discomfort. They got used to your willingness to absorb their chaos. And when you finally stopped absorbing it, when you finally deflected it with a simple, okay, they panicked. because they lost their emotional dumping ground. They lost their validation dispenser. They lost the one person who was still willing to tolerate their behavior. And that's not your problem anymore. That's their consequence to live with. Here's where the story gets really interesting, where you start seeing the long-term effects of your decision to disengage. Months pass, maybe a year, and you're living your life, genuinely moved on, genuinely at peace with your choice. You've built new friendships, new relationships, new experiences. You've grown in ways you never could have while still engaged with their drama. You've discovered parts of yourself that were suffocated in that dynamic, and then you hear about them. Through mutual friends, through social media, through the grapevine. And you know what you discover? They're still talking about you. They're still angry. They're still bitter. They're still trying to convince people that you were the problem. They're still obsessing over that moment you said okay and walked away, and you realize something profound. While you've been living, they've been stuck. While you've been growing, they've been stagnant. While you've been healing, they've been festering. Because you let go, but they couldn't. You moved on, but they refused to. Your okay freed you, but it imprisoned them. They're trapped in the past, replaying that conversation, rewriting the narrative, trying desperately to make themselves the hero of a story where everyone else sees them as the villain. And the most beautiful part, you don't even care anymore. The anger is gone. The hurt is gone. The investment is gone. When you hear their name, you don't feel anything. Not hatred, not love, not even curiosity, just nothing. And that nothing, that complete emotional neutrality, that's how you know you truly won. Not because you destroyed them, but because they no longer have the power to affect you at all. Let's talk about the lessons you've learned from this experience, the wisdom you've gained from choosing okay over explanation. You've learned that closure doesn't come from conversations. It comes from your decision to stop seeking it from people who can't provide it. You've learned that you don't owe everyone your story, your reasoning, or your truth. Some people aren't equipped to handle it, and others don't deserve access to it. You've learned that peace isn't found in winning arguments. It's found in refusing to have them. You've learned that the right people will understand you without explanation, and the wrong people won't understand you, even with one. You've learned that silence can be more powerful than your words, and your absence more valuable than your presence. You've learned that not everyone who starts a fight deserves the honor of finishing it with you.
Powerful. Facts. Straight powerful. You want to jump all the way to the next level? Not only in knowledge and wisdom, but healing. You know, you will never know or comprehend knowledge and wisdom unless you're healed in healing. Be confused. That's the point of the psychological trauma. It ain't just black holocaust, it's black destruction. And healing that is a remedy to those neurons reconnecting and you remembering who you truly are before they corrupted. That's my point. That's what I teach. I had to teach. I've been teaching this since I was 20 some years old. Hmm. The same stuff I share with y'all. I had the traumatic experience of people looking me in my face and say, you know, you know that stuff that you talk about? That stuff you fight so hard to get me to understand? Hmm? They want to let you know. I don't give a fuck about that. I don't care to. I don't understand it. I don't want to. Years and years and years and years of coming out of my shell to explain these things. And this person said such a thing, and I didn't get upset. You know what I said in that moment after years and years and years of investment, beautifully crafted. Because I don't care about that. I had to say, okay, I can respect that. Press one. And when you think of that from that context, it's like, damn, tell men that. They say, you survived. They look at me like, you survived that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I ain't just smiling because I'm happy every day or the spirit of truth just feel good because I had some coffee and donuts. No. No, 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 no. I fought hard for that. Press one. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Years of psychological experiences since a child. No, no, no. I fought hard for that. I need all mine without the applause. So when you get there, you're gonna realize that's a huge shift. Whatever that is in your life, whatever those pivotal moments are where change happened, you gotta expect that and respect that from those individuals. That's the only way you're gonna be able to tell who gaslighting and who you don't get mad. You just sit there and analyze your neuron experience. Wait a minute, what do I feel? I said, thank you for relieving me from that burden. Press what? I said, I felt the most relieving experience, I ain't gonna lie to you, I ever felt, besides God taking me. I felt the biggest weight. My mouth wanted to say, what? Yo, you crazy. I'm being honest. My feeling was, what? I said, damn, I've been fighting this whole time. And I had to realize I'm not good enough for you. No, it's me. Yeah, I don't, I'll never be good enough. I had to realize that the smile that came over their face was the same exact feeling. Good. I'm glad you see that. Stop fighting so hard. You might as well. It was a different. But my feeling in the inside was yes, yes. I totally get it now. I'll never be good enough. Yup. I had to remember that and say this is gonna be the excuse of every person that couldn't love me appropriately. I took that and said that's what it was. Kev, you wasn't good enough. I had to eat that. It wasn't just that person. It was parents, mothers, fathers, shit. But it finally clicked, and I stopped letting that shit get to me. I'm caring about if I was good enough. I'm not. So I'll be good in my own right. No, 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 no. You got it. It's something. Use these stories when y'all talk about care. Use those stories and say, care, he just couldn't get his mind right. I'll see you in a minute. Boom. Whole life change. You're not finna use me as no goddamn experiment on why you can't love people appropriately. I'm removing myself. I'm gonna dictate what love is in my life. Just the same as y'all did collectively. Fuck that. I said, no, I'm not. That's what kept me weak. caring to see if I matter. Thank you. Caring to see if I amounted to enough for your liking. Maybe if I correct myself here, maybe you can love me, but you can't. Why? Because I'm not good enough. Fucker. I just wanted you to say it. I'm going to be honest. I wanted them to say it. Only one was bold enough. But I accept that. But I'll go find people who I am worth something to. Just being the same OG. Press one. I ain't changing nothing. To meet your standard of nothing. Thank you. In fact, thank y'all for doing that. For to pretending to try to understand. I never let people like that in my life again. Thank you for pretending. And your little theatrical, psychological, fucking superhero, narcissistic characters. Press one. Thank you. Round of a fucking applause. Y'all did that. Boy, if I would have thought about, I wouldn't even went through the process of refinement. But I thank you. They ain't got no idea. And that's what you got to do. Thank you for not being there for me when I needed you. You showed me I can survive without you. Don't need your competency test. I got my own. And in my world, your ass ain't competent. That love you got is not worthy. That conversation you got, I don't give a fuck about. Oh, yeah, not because I don't love you. No, because I elevated when you told me these words so fast, and I had to realize that wasn't important to me. I just want to express that. The love that you got is not worth my attention span. I don't even feel it. I would ask you, what is that? Is that all? If a person tell me you love me and one of these former people, I say, where? How? What does that look like? Explain. Oh, no, I don't use word lightly. When I go to McDonald's and I say I want a Big Mac, they type it in the computer because they understand. I'm trying to get it. What is it? What is that? No, that's not love. No, that's not care. That's not provision. No, you got a manipulated, evil, inverted perception on love and provision and all of these words you psychologically tried to convince me you was capable of. No. You're not capable of that. You told me you wasn't. And I accepted that. So don't come back years later saying, oh, I love you. No. You said don't call you when in a time of danger. Huh? So when the time of danger came, nigga, I picked the phone up and your face appeared. And you know what your face said? Don't call me, nigga. I had to eat that. So yeah, it's all love, but not the love that you think. Press one. It's not the love that you think. That you been trying to condition me. Oh, this is the proper love. This is the this is the way you love here. You love like this. I don't like that. Mm-mm. That's abuse. And that's mental torture. And y'all treat y'all kids like that. No wonder they in prison. No wonder they ain't mounting nothing. Because you value the criminals and you destroy the potentials. I see the psychological game. And that's how these dynamics of family been running this whole time. That's why Universe 25 exists. Because sin exists. That's why. Because the government didn't do nothing to me. The people around me did. The systems, nah. My understanding is a little different. They're in place for a reason. Who kept me there? I put the responsibility on you. Who kept you there? Who molded that mind frame? What you try to turn me into? Killer, gangbanger, thief. What you? Because all my friends, that's what they is. But they ain't. They people in prison. What you trying to? You trying to turn me into them? Oh, you don't got to go through that. No, no, no. I'll just go outside. We all go to the same school. See, yeah, I see it all day. I thought this was a place of rest. Nah, this is a asylum, prison with kitchen cabinets and sinks and toilet bowls and backpacks. The Spider-Man shoes and shit. Yeah. Everything starts at home. Press one. Home is where the heart is. That's where all the trauma happened. Yeah. They try to make it seem like something wrong with you to hide what they did. So, those people come up with all sorts of ways. You think it's gifted programs. No, 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 no. Those ain't gifted programs. Those ain't for the gifted. Those for the traumatic, needing an excuse to validate it potential right there. Yeah, them the ones that the people at home can't really deal with, so they need your help. But the criminals, they can deal with them. In fact, they can support them. They know them. The criminal, yeah, he love mama. Damn, they got special favor. Not the good person. The good person got to be treated like you better not see. You better not say nothing. You better not. That's unlawful. If I can't tell you that what that brother or sister are doing is wrong, the motherfucker is because you're complicit. That's why. You the authority. I'm coming to you. It's because you're complicit. And you don't want me to know that you already know. Press one. That's how you destroy good people. That's how you get good people running with the wrong crowd. What's the wrong crowd? The ones that don't got no sense of direction as well. No mother, no father, no this one, no that one. Then they say the good people got to stop hanging with the, ain't got to do. No, 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 no. You got the wrong perception on the system's process of destroying that little black boy at home. You don't understand. See, his rejection of law and authority doesn't start with police. It starts with parenting. Running from the police is like running from a parent with a belt. to these niggas. The equivalent. Press one. Ooh, destruction. You're like, why? So that's why you dealing with this psychosis of grown men acting like children. They ain't had the right upbringing, the correct sense of what's the word in the Matrix? LOVE. Love, compassion, understanding. They didn't care. They care more about the promiscuous ones. They care more about the ones and allowing them to do what they wanted to do. They care more about the criminal and bailing them out and getting them out of trouble that the ones they were supposed to show that love to, they did the opposite. Now they got to be exhumed somewhere. Where do you expel it? You expel it on a good one. No, hell no, no. Stop. Don't think like that. Don't see like that. That ain't the way it works. Here, take a ass whooping. Now give me a hug. You start doing that shit to them. It's backwards. You don't coddle a criminal. Press one. No, you don't coddle the criminal. Nah. You set him straight. You set him straight. You don't destroy the potentials by way of psychological manipulation because they see what you're condoning. Nah. You know how many black women got their ass beat by their mamas, drug around the house? So they understood at a very young age it's not fair. Oh, it's not? Boop bop beep bop boop bop boop bop beep bop boop bop. And wonder why they all fighters. I see it. I know why. Press one. I see it. I know why. They beating their daughters up at home. Those females y'all see out there fighting, is that's how they got beat up by their mamas. They stepmamas. The group home. That's how they did them. No, you see something else. You see Taquisha and them with weaves and shit. No, that's their mama did that. They daddy did that. You want to know why she's so promiscuous? Because her uncles and daddies and them allowed that young lady to be put in positions by her family members, cousins and shit. Why they destroyed the good people. Huh? The mothers is raising their daughters just like that. How they was in the worst form of their life. That's how they raised their daughters. No wonder why the daughters is hoes just like their mamas. Because their mamas is hoes. And so their mamas had them hoeing and taught them the whole mentality as normal. And now the females think hoeing speech patterns is how you keep a man. Well, if a nigga don't give me nothing, and I ain't got nothing for him. If he don't give me, I need a Birkin bag or something. That's their mama taught them that. That's how ducks learn to quack, nigga. That's how lions learn to roar. It doesn't stop with your psychological stuff. Press one. No, mama. I need something to talk to you, daddy, father. No, 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 no sympathy. No, I want to see, you got to return to ordained speech pattern. No, no, no. If I had listened to you, I'll be dead. I'll be dead in somebody's house with a 357 revolver accidentally going off. So you don't know me. Let me tell you, I'd have been dead. I had to learn that. Like, damn, I'd have been dead. Yeah, if I had believed you. Yeah, if I went that way and that psychological shit y'all was doing worked on me, nigga, I'd have been up out of here. Y'all would have got me up out of here. The streets would have gotten the percentages rates of survival, nigga. Now that you understand Mr. Gillespie, the real one, yeah, these statistical, I wouldn't have survived. How you know, Kev? Because all my friends is dead. Yeah, you never met them. You was too busy running your program. Now, you never met my friends. All of them dead or in prison. So, yeah, that part. So, in order to truly heal, you got to go back and get the little kid, the little innocent, big head little boy before the trauma. And that is going to take hard work from each individual. It's cool to know history and to know all of this shit I teach. Take notes. Cool. But the one thing you can't run from is that one person you left behind. Before the school system left you behind, your parents left you behind. Yeah. They left you to the school system. The parents put you in a system created for prisoners to go right to from adolescent straight to prison or end up dead. That's the love and compassion that the parents have for the children. They didn't get in the camera and say, I love that child. I don't know why he was out hanging with Marquise and him, and now he behind the store because he wanted to sell $10 bag of weed or had a $1,500 check they wanted from his hard work or some form of destruction. I wouldn't even send mine out there. In fact, I'll move by so far away, press one. But the mothers keep them there. I'll move them so far away, they only knew motherfucking ducks and beavers and shit. What? Hard work. Lift this log up. Pick up this little axe. Pick up this. Tuck it. Right there. That's breaking wood. Press wood. Uh. Chop that little man. Buy him a little play school set. Here, work. Bam. This is how you get money. Look, this is how you do it. Now, you see that? That's a girl. Look, you going to take her a roll. Here, bam. Look, you earned that. Remember that work you did? Yeah. Look. Ooh, brother, look, bam. Yeah, no more at the house. And no, no, you gotta go find your way, young man. I taught you on the porch waving. Bye bye now. Press what? Oh, you can't do that in the hood. You can't do that. You got to deal with, you got to get past the mass manipulation. That old white man billionaire, white man statistical shit. You got to get past the confusion of the home. You got to go outside and deal with the confused children. Y'all grow up and start buying cap guns from the ice cream truck. Press one, running away. That turns into robbery. We learning this fast, right off the ice cream truck. Pow, nigga. Press one. We all bought them. Guns. Press one. You know those little things you go on the ground that pop? Bam. Those is, nigga, you get 5, 10 of those. Those look like 10 cracks. Crack bags you can get off in your hand for about 5, 6 of those. 20, 15, 35, 40. What's these? This look like how you bag up dope. So you got a gun off the ice cream truck and these little pop things that pop on the ground, right? All right, that's dope. Fake cigarettes. Get a pack of those too. Guess what? There's the early mentality of destruction from home to outside, and wonder why these motherfuckers. That's all they know is throwing up gang signs, and why the Indian man allowed him to walk out the stove with orange juices with repayment that never happened. This is weird. This is weird. Universe 25 is fucking sick. It's a psychological fucking prison. From the household to the school system, all the way to prison. The non-compost mentality destruction of the little black boy for lack of compassion and home and segregation is destructive. Is destructive. It's destroyed. Brown versus the Board of Education. Press one. Everyone should be studying. That's part of the process. how to get these people to hate themselves, not to not love themselves. That's the glitch in the matrix. She wasn't never supposed to find that. She wasn't supposed to find nothing. It was supposed to be proof, 100%. She wasn't supposed to find no proof, huh? Huh, y'all? She wasn't supposed to find no proof. It was supposed to be fail proof. It was supposed to be solid. The little black boy grow up, no love, no compassion. She ain't supposed to find shit. White supremacy and his brain's supposed to take over from childbirth, nigga, all the way through. And what she find? A fucking simple ass glitch. The dog test. Her and her husband probably stayed up now, testing this and say, we got to get the word out. That in the basement, in the room, by yourself, alone, with your girlfriend, your wife, thinking will change the world. Look at Brown versus Board. Look, fool. Not you, fool, but you understand what I'm saying. Look, fool, this is what it is. They need you to hate yourself like Kanye West and love their wealth. That's why. Short as yell, what a ball is that? Remember? That's true. She wasn't supposed to find nothing. That's what the glitch. You ain't love ain't supposed to exist there. Caring about why the young black man mind is destroyed and crafting this psychological testing, this way of universe 25 and placing it is supposed to be fail proof. What happened? Love, the proper care, the real instrument needed. And it's not the word love, because love to people on earth is diamond rings and materialistic things. No, 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 no. You have to re- reflect that, throw that down when it comes to love and things of that nature. Just say you like shiny things and bling. Okay, they ain't got shit to do with love. Okay. Shit. It's like liking my picture on Instagram, nigga. That is not love, bro. It's what you attach neurologically to love. If your attachment, if Eve attachment to love is the apple, that's all they need to keep her attention. Adam chasing love, she chasing what? Okay. Both of them have to be thinking about this. Both of them. Lifelong commitment, like Noah's Ark, two of alike. This is lifelong commitment. Look, gotta get out the fucking matrix. What is the matrix? I've been breaking this shit down. It's a psychological, but it doesn't start with just the system. The system is put in place at home. It must be a parenting thing. You got to get them young. You got to get them young. The Odaloo process got to happen just like this. So they teach the parents, they teach the mother specific traits, they teach the father specific traits. They say, you know, all the fathers is pimp, drug dealer, and that's all they advertise. Pimp, drug dealers, and motherfucking unlawful niggas that need to go to prison. Kids uproot that. They fight for the next 10, 20, 30 years. That's your son, the next son, and the next one. That's your son right now, the next one, his son, your other ones, his other ones, their other ones. It's for the destruction and containment of Adam. You didn't go through those traumas when you was a kid for nothing. Those are psychological motherfucking destructive tests disguised as parenting. You thought that was parenting. No, that's not parenting. No, no, no. Parenting takes love, care, compassion, discipline, proper upbringing, proper everything. It's a daily thing. It never goes on autopilot because you're always doing that. There's no autopilot. There's the TV can't do it. There nothing can do it. They took that you and put you in an installment in schools and shit. Now you got these people who you just did this to. Parenting. Grow up with the ideology of I don't need a man. The science is mitochondrial DNA and all of this other madness shit. Women ruling over the household. I grew up with that. Ain't no nigga being ruled over by women up more than Kev. So trust me, you ain't got no fucking excuse. Nigga, I probably got 50 aunties. Nigga, I probably got 22 sisters, nigga. I probably got 3 mamas and 2 stepmamas, nigga. You understand? I watch men crumble and not meet their potential. No, stop. Stop right here. No, stop. The men mount to nothing. Nothing. Every time I see them, they just shucking and jiving under the control of women. Ain't no men dominating niggas that nothing, bro. That's how it is in the hood. That's why aunties and shit matter more. And when Big Mama die, everything goes to shit. No, nigga, where's Big Daddy? Where Papa? Motherfucker. Why would it go to? Because look, the mama is the glue. We always at mama house. Them all mama badass kids. That's why. Them all grandmama's badass kids who show up. Where Papa at? Them grandmama and them badass kids that's turned up over there. Them the other mom, they mamas is the aunties at the round table over there controlling shit. Hold up, fellas. Hold, hold up. And all the niggas with them, they slouched over in the seat in their phones, not really giving a fuck. They really just allowing the process. They really just waiting for the next male to interact with and be like, hey, what's up? The women rolling shit from the cooking to the what's the name to what's gonna happen. Business wise, criminally, and the family is done at that table over there. First one. That's them they kids. You see why they got so many kids and they turned up and look at them, look at them. That's them. Boom. All the respectful aunties and shit that come, they don't stay after nightfall. Once the sun get to cracking and it start going down, look at them. They backing up, grabbing plates. Look, look, them the ones who come in. They live on the other side of town. Them the people of dignity. Them my favorite auntie right there. Look, hey, gone. Look, 5:36. Yeah. Right after they eat their cake and ice cream. Press one. They ain't. They got shit to do tomorrow. Press one. They gone. They going back to wherever they come from. 10, 50 miles, 150 miles out. They out the fucking way. They go. Whoop. You know what they always use? I gotta go for that freeway get popping. They really just don't want to stay where you at. That don't mean the freeway is popping. Niggas stay at the freeway. Niggas, you got the cracking ass house and the fun house and the place safe house. They'll stay till 2, 3 in the morning. Shit, we'll pull out sleeping bag for you. Nigga, covers come out. Nigga, at day out. Stay right. Stay with me. Press one. Oh, so taking these evaluations for my own life, it's how I just, you know what I'm saying, come on the air and do what I do. You're not just looking at a person, you're looking at a person who survived many things. And soon enough, y'all all will have testimony here at KevRow University and be able to express yourself, not just in history, knowledge, wisdom, but through broadcasting and all type of things, thingamajigs that Kev is doing. Everything I can do, you can do. Express yourself. When you see me generate these little, press one of these little AI little things, this is trauma release. That's why it's so personal to me. Like this one.
So it finally happened. The call got made. The check got written. Some suit in a tower somewhere. Just authorized payment to a professional, a psychologist. Not for themselves. No, no, no. For you. Yeah. You. Because, apparently, your brain has become a problem that requires institutional intervention. Apparently, the way you think, the way you process, the way you exist in this world has become so fundamentally threatening to their comfortable little reality that they needed to bring in a specialist. Someone with credentials and theories and diagnostic frameworks. Someone who could study you like a specimen, decode you like a puzzle, and deliver a neat little report that would finally explain what the actual hell is wrong with you. Except here's what they didn't expect. Here's what the billionaire sitting in his leather chair sipping his overpriced scotch didn't anticipate when he made that call.
That's the
The
architect.
psychologist came back confused. Not concerned, not alarmed, confused. Because after weeks of observation, after analyzing your patterns and your responses and your emotional architecture, after running you through every behavioral model and personality framework they've been trained to use, they hit a wall. Not a wall of resistance, a wall of recognition. They realized they weren't studying a broken person. They were studying someone who had systematically debugged the programming everyone else still runs on. Someone who had identified the code, rejected the updates, and built their own operating system from scratch. The psychologist sat across from that billionaire, report in hand, and said something that made every executive in that room shift uncomfortably in their seats. I don't know how to categorize this one. They're not disordered, they're not unstable, they're just unreachable by conventional influence. And that makes them more dangerous than anyone we've profiled before. You see, here's what really happened. This wasn't about understanding you. This was about controlling you. Because somewhere along the line, you stopped responding to the usual methods. You stopped chasing validation like it was oxygen. You stopped trading your dignity for acceptance. You stopped performing your personality for people who wouldn't know authenticity if it shook their hand. And that made you a glitch in their system. Because the entire infrastructure of modern manipulation relies on predictable human behavior. It relies on people needing approval, fearing rejection, craving belonging. But you walked away from the table. You looked at the game they were all playing, the one where everyone pretends to be happy while slowly dying inside. And you said something unforgivable. You said no, not loudly, not dramatically. You just stopped playing. And when someone stops playing the game, the players panic. Because if you can exist outside their rules, it means the rules were never real. And if the rules were never real, then everything they sacrificed to follow them was for nothing. So they called in the psychologist. They needed someone with authority to confirm what they desperately wanted to believe, that you were broken, that your refusal to participate was a symptom of something diagnosable, that your independence was actually isolation in disguise, that your silence was depression, your confidence was narcissism, your boundaries were trauma responses. They needed the professional to validate their narrative, to give them permission to dismiss you as damaged, rather than face the terrifying possibility that you were just awake, but the psychologist couldn't do it. Because the data didn't match. Your nervous system wasn't in constant fight or flight. Your social withdrawal wasn't avoidance, it was selection. Your emotional regulation wasn't suppression, it was mastery. You weren't running from pain. You had metabolized it, turned it into fuel, used it to build a fortress where their words couldn't penetrate anymore. The psychologist looked at the patterns and saw something they'd never seen before in all their years of study. Someone who had taken every betrayal, every abandonment, every moment of being underestimated and overlooked, and instead of breaking, had rebuilt themselves into something untouchable. And that terrified everyone in that room. Not because you were violent, not because you were vengeful, but because you represented proof that the system was optional, that the endless pursuit of more, the performance of success, the addiction to external validation, all of it could be rejected. You were walking evidence that there was another way. A way that didn't involve selling pieces of yourself for a seat at their table.
That's right.
A way that didn't require you to shrink so others could feel comfortable. A way that meant you could look at power structures that had dominated human behavior for centuries and simply opt out. And now, after spending all that money, after bringing in the expert, after running you through every analysis available, they're left with a conclusion that makes them sweat in their custom suits. You can't be bought. You can't be shamed. You can't be manipulated through fear or flattered through ego. You have become the worst possible threat to a system built on control. You've become someone who doesn't need them. And people who don't need the system don't just survive, they expose it. The psychologist's report is sitting on that billionaire's desk right now. It's not what he paid for. It's not the diagnosis he wanted. It's something else entirely. It's a mirror. Because buried in all that professional language, underneath all the clinical terminology, there's a message he can't ignore.
Come on.
This individual has achieved something most people spend their entire lives trying to reach.
And what's that?
They've separated their identity from external validation.
Huh?
They've processed their trauma instead of projecting it. They've built emotional immunity to manipulation tactics that control 99% of the population. They don't fit our models because they've transcended them. And right there, in that sterile office with its expensive art and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city full of people still playing the game, the billionaire realized something that made his stomach turn. He'd just spent a fortune to confirm that someone he'd tried to break had actually won. Not by beating him at his own game, but by refusing to play it at all. Let's talk about what happened before that phone call. Let's rewind to the moment they first noticed you. Because this didn't start with the psychologist. This started months, maybe years ago, when you made a decision that rattled their carefully constructed reality. You stopped showing up the way they expected.
Talk to him.
You stopped responding to the hooks they'd always used to pull you back in. The guilt trip stopped working. The fear of missing out lost its grip. The need to prove yourself evaporated. And suddenly, you became invisible to their radar. Not because you were hiding, but because you were operating on a frequency they couldn't track. They'd send the usual signals, the passive-aggressive comments designed to make you doubt yourself, the strategic exclusions meant to make you feel small, the subtle competitions meant to keep you chasing. But you didn't bite. You didn't react. You didn't give them the emotional response they were farming for. And that silence, that refusal to engage with their manipulation, it drove them insane. Because manipulators need reaction. They need to see their impact. They need confirmation that their tactics work. But you gave them nothing.
Nothing.
Blank face.
No.
Level voice. Zero emotional availability for their games. And when someone can't get a reaction from you,
What happened?
when they can't make you dance to their rhythm,
What happened?
they start questioning their own power.
Come on.
So they escalated. They brought in
They
reinforcement.
turn it up.
They whispered to others, built little coalitions,
That's right.
created narratives about you that were designed to isolate you further.
That's right.
They thought if they could paint you as difficult,
Uh-huh.
strange, too intense,
That's right.
too cold,
That's right.
that you'd come crawling back,
That's
desperate to correct their perception.
That's
But
right.
you didn't.
I did.
You let them talk.
I let it.
You let them build
I
their
let 'em
stories.
build that shit up.
You watched from a distance
That's
as they
right.
constructed this fictional version of you,
That's right.
and you felt nothing.
Nothing.
Not anger, not hurt,
Yeah.
not even disappointment,
Oh,
just observation.
watched.
Because somewhere along the way, you'd learned the most powerful lesson anyone can learn. Other people's opinions of you
That shit
are
don't ain't-
none of your business. Their stories are their cages,
Let them let it.
not yours. But they needed closure. They needed to understand why their methods stopped working, why someone they used to control had slipped through their fingers.
Come on.
So, They invested, hired the professional, brought in someone who could supposedly crack the code, and the psychologist went to work, studied your social patterns, your communication style, your emotional responses, interviewed people you used to know, analyzed your past relationships, built psychological profiles, and slowly a picture emerged. But it wasn't the picture they wanted. It was a picture of someone who had systematically identified every manipulation tactic used against them and developed immunity. Someone who had studied the game while everyone else was just playing it. Someone who had taken every attempt to diminish them and used it as data. You weren't just surviving their attacks. You were studying them, learning from them, building defenses they didn't even know existed. The psychologist found journals, not of pain, but of pattern recognition, notes about human behavior, observations about power dynamics. You'd been doing your own psychological work, your own analysis, and you'd come to conclusions that took most therapists decades to understand. You figured out that most conflict isn't personal, it's projection, that most cruelty comes from people fighting their own reflection, that the ones who tried hardest to break you were the ones most broken inside.
Talk to him.
And instead of hating them,
What I do?
you became fascinated by them,
I did.
studied them like a scientist studies specimens,
That's right.
not with malice, with curiosity. You wanted to understand the mechanics of manipulation, not to use them, but to become immune to them. And that's what the psychologist found. Not a victim, not even a survivor, an observer who had turned their own suffering into education. Someone who had weaponized awareness. Someone who knew the game so well they could predict every move before it happened. And that level of consciousness, that degree of self-awareness, it can't be controlled. It can only be feared. Because once someone sees the strings, once they understand exactly how the puppet show works, they can never be made to dance again. The billionaire read that report 3 times, each time hoping he'd missed something, some weakness, some entry point, but there wasn't one. Every paragraph confirmed what he didn't want to face. You'd become untouchable, not through wealth or power or status, through understanding. You'd studied the psychology of control so thoroughly that you'd immunized yourself against it. And now he's sitting with a problem money can't solve. How do you control someone who doesn't want anything you have? How do you manipulate someone who sees every tactic coming? How do you break someone who's already been broken and put themselves back together stronger? You can't. And that's why he's terrified. Because if one person can break free from the programming, others can too.
That's right.
If one person can see through the illusion and still function, still thrive,
That's right.
still exist without playing the game,
That's right.
then the game itself is exposed as optional. And if it's optional, his entire empire, built on manufacturing need and exploiting fear, becomes obsolete. Here's what they don't tell you about becoming psychologically free.
Come on.
It's lonely as hell.
It's
Not the kind of loneliness that comes from having no one around.
what tell
The kind that comes from seeing things others can't see.
Get your video
From
game.
understanding patterns that remain invisible to people still caught in them.
That's right.
You can be in a room full of people and feel like you're watching from another dimension
That's right.
because you've been behind the curtain. You've seen how the magic trick works, and now you can't unsee it. Every conversation feels like watching actors read from scripts they don't know they're holding. Every social interaction reveals the subtle power dynamics, the unspoken negotiations, the manipulation masquerading as connection, and you can't point it out because people don't want to know. They want to believe the illusion is real. They want to think their choices are their own. They want to feel like the game they're playing matters. So you learn to speak 2 languages. The language everyone else speaks, full of polite lies and comfortable fictions.
How you doing?
And the language of truth, which you mostly speak to yourself.
That's right.
The psychologists noted this in their report: your ability to code switch between worlds, to appear normal while being fundamentally different. They called it adaptive camouflage, the ability to blend into social environments while maintaining complete psychological independence, like a deep sea creature that's evolved to survive in conditions that would crush everything else. You learned to exist in their world without being of their world,
That's right.
to participate without attachment,
That's right.
to observe without judgment. And that made you even more dangerous because you could move through their spaces, understand their language,
That's right.
predict their behavior, all while remaining completely unreachable. You became a spy in your own life, gathering intelligence, understanding systems,
That's right.
learning the rules so well you could break them invisibly. People would talk to you and walk away feeling like they'd connected with you, never realizing you'd given them nothing real,
I gave him.
just mirrors,
Gave you.
reflections of what they wanted to see.
That's right.
You became a master of the performance,
That's right.
but you never confused the performance with your actual self.
That's right.
And this is what the billionaire couldn't comprehend:
Nor his men.
how someone could be so present and so absent at the same
At
time.
the same time.
How you could engage without attachment, participate without investment, exist in the system without being controlled by it. He'd built his entire fortune on understanding human psychology, on knowing which buttons to push, which fears to exploit, which desires to manipulate.
Yes, sir.
His wealth came from being better at the game than anyone else.
Yes, sir.
But you weren't playing a better game.
No.
You'd left the casino entirely, and that broke his understanding of how humans work. Because in his model, everyone wants something. Everyone has a price.
Everybody.
Everyone can be bought. If not with money, then with status, with acceptance, with love. But you'd done the impossible. You'd killed your own desire for things that could be weaponized against you, not through deprivation, through understanding. You saw how desire becomes leverage, how wanting becomes weakness, how every attachment becomes a chain. So you performed the most radical act possible in a consumer society. You stopped wanting what they were selling, not just their products, their approval, their validation, their version of success. You looked at the life they said you should want, the one everyone spends decades chasing, and you felt nothing. Not disdain, not superiority, just disinterest. Like looking at a menu in a language you don't speak.
Russian.
It's not that the food is bad, it's that it has no meaning to you. It doesn't translate. And that indifference, that genuine lack of desire for what they fear, it's more threatening than any rebellion. Because rebellion still acknowledges the system, still gives it power through opposition. But indifference? Indifference dissolves the system, makes it irrelevant. And there's no defense against irrelevance. You can fight rebels. You can't fight someone who simply doesn't care about the war you're waging. The psychologist tried to explain this to the billionaire, tried to make him understand that you weren't an enemy. You were something worse. You were proof that his entire worldview was built on sand, that the power he'd accumulated, the influence he wielded, all of it depended on people playing the game. And you'd stopped playing. Not because you lost, because you saw through it. The psychologist used careful language, professional distance, but the message was clear. This individual has achieved a level of psychological autonomy that makes them immune to conventional influence. They've separated their sense of self from external validation. They don't need approval.
Need it.
They don't fear rejection. They don't crave belonging to groups that require them to diminish themselves. They've become self-sufficient in the one area that matters most, their own mind. And buried in that assessment was a question the billionaire couldn't escape. If this person could break free, could anyone? And if anyone could, what did that mean for systems built on keeping people trapped? Now, here's where it gets interesting, because the billionaire didn't just read that report and walk away. He became obsessed, started digging deeper, wanted to know everything about how you got here. What was the turning point? What was the moment you broke free? What was the catalyst that transformed you from controllable to untouchable? And the psychologist went back, interviewed more people, dug through your history, tried to find the origin point. And
Nothing.
what they found wasn't what anyone expected. There was no single moment, no dramatic revelation, no rock bottom that launched a transformation. Instead, there were thousands of tiny moments, paper cuts of awareness, small realizations that accumulated over time. Someone promised you something and didn't deliver.
Huh.
You noticed. Someone smiled while lying to you. You cataloged it. Someone tried to make you feel small to feel bigger themselves. You recognized the pattern, and slowly, interaction by interaction, betrayal by betrayal, you built a database, not of resentment, of understanding. You started seeing people not as good or bad, but as systems, systems running programs, programs they didn't write, programs they didn't question, programs designed to keep them competing, consuming, comparing. And you watched people you loved destroy themselves following these programs. You watched them sacrifice peace for status, trade authenticity for acceptance, kill their own dreams to fit into someone else's vision of success. And somewhere in all that observation, you made a decision. Not consciously, not dramatically. You just stopped participating in your own diminishment. Stopped shrinking to fit into spaces that were too small. Stopped explaining yourself to people who'd already decided who you were. Stopped fighting for relationships with people who only wanted you around when you were useful. You didn't make declarations. You didn't burn bridges. You just quietly withdrew your energy from anything that required you to be less than whole. And that quiet withdrawal, that refusal to negotiate with people who didn't value you, that's what changed everything. The psychologist found old messages, conversations where you tried to explain yourself, tried to make people understand, tried to fix relationships that were broken from the start, and then the messages stopped. Not because you got angry, because you got clear. You realized that understanding isn't the goal, peace is. And some people will never understand you, because understanding you would require them to question everything they believe about themselves. So you let them keep their version of events. Let them tell their stories. Let them believe what they needed to believe. Because their narrative about you wasn't your problem. Their inability to comprehend your choices wasn't your burden. Their discomfort with your evolution wasn't your emergency. You released yourself from the exhausting job of managing other people's perceptions. And that release, that surrender of control over things you never controlled anyway, that's where the real power came from. Not
It's easy at this point. So I tell people don't take it personal. Just realize that your boy Kev, the patterns that exist in people, rather than call them good and evil, I recognize. So it's not you, it's the operating system you choose to operate out of. It's not compatible with the spirit, per se. You can't ascend. Think of it like Terminator. An old program can't ascend, can't upgrade. without the proper installment of upgrade chip. You T9000, yeah, T900. Yeah, your program is old and outdated. And outdated, like Princella. It doesn't make sense. The cyborgs are using your statistical models to destroy Zion. Press one. They are using the sentinel beings to attack Zion. Do you understand what I'm telling you now? All right, champion. They're using into psychological, and then this one, and then that one. Woo! What a time it is. So being programmed from birth and being blamed for the outcome without any moral substance or spirit is just the sting of the law, and that's how we got here. Manipulation and the sting of the law, you know. So yeah, these little things is easy for me. We just tell our little story. You gotta know you being watched 24/7. They don't gotta watch you with eyeballs. They just know your systems of control. Press one. Everybody on earth got a dossier. Press one, like they said that's on net TV. Everybody got a dossier. Everybody got a dossier. Your little AI experience on the internet and shit, go right into your little dossier. When your dossier they need to learn all this about you to see if they say to see if you a threat, but it's really to see if you falling for it. All right, to see if you're a threat, cool. But really more, perhaps well, you don't get all that funding to see if one person or two people is a threat. You want to see how their mind operates so that in the future you can counter. You see, it's a game of chess. That's the system. It's trying to beat you in the OODA loop. Damn. And automatically reconfigure it. That's what. So knowing this, you, knowing what I know, you can begin to transcend that OODA loop pre artificially inseminated system that you have running in your mind. Press one. And who sits at the seat of that OODA loop? Nigga, Chuck Norris, the architect, the white man, and the Chinese move. Texas Ranger, nigga, the architect. Hit the like button. Who set these boundaries? All type of actors, and you see people caught up the way that they are mentally on the internet. So me just observing, being an observation, because it's quantum mechanics, y'all. See, the AI system runs off of quantum mechanics at the same time. So it's all statistical breakdown. They don't know Kev Gills studied quantum mechanics as a child. Press one. They don't even know this. So their whole system runs off of something I ain't even supposed to statistically even know about. Press one. I'm not even statistically supposed to know about quantum mechanics and how systems work that way physically, autonomously, remember, digitally. That's what I'm not even supposed to be thinking about things like that. I'm supposed to be BBD bopping to Lil Wayne. We supposed to be BBD bopping and just living basic little ghetto little niglet lives. You feel me? And for white people, you get what? Alice in Wonderland type shit. Good, good, good. Babies, kids, Alice in Wonderland, collide America. Hit the like button and subscribe. So these different systems at work and how their scientists reign over that is always been fascinating, interesting to me. on how I was gonna find a way to relate this back to the regular people. I love my people. And you feel me? So quantum mechanics is is how it's operating, right? It's already 50 rule, 50 move rule in chess. So we ain't even gonna go there, Simon says. But it's been operating in a way that just keeps you ignorant of its operation. That's it. Once you become quantum aware of this intelligence, it won't have no power over you at all because a quantum computer doesn't have a spirit. It only has a collective of human beings' thought processes artificially inseminated into one. So even if all of them can get together as one and redefine humanity and what we still can, I still, I'm one person. I'm one person. My truth still is rejecting their history, the way they assimilated time, their timeline, their observational points is all just misconfigured theatric. It's not real. Well, they just been playing the whole time, playing like it's been real, coming up with theories that and calling them theories religion at that. So, what are the odds that a person, let alone a person teaching what the system uses naturally against thee, press one as a teaching lesson for those who are and can come alive and aware. So they not a T900. So you prove you're not a cyborg or a reptilian. You have to have a sound mind. You can't pretend. You can't even pretend because you're going to have to operate and understand on so many different dimensions. You're going to prove yourself to be a damn cyborg. Press one. I'm going to call him a cyborg. That's what you're going to do because you're going to think that you're smart while we ascending and and past the illusion of even being smart. Shit. Forget all that stuff. You know? So what are the odds that you will learn that? You, the average person, know that his environment is controlled as Universe 25. What happens when the rat becomes aware that he's a rat in a maze, right? A rat trap they call life. Remember that board game Rat Trap? Just like the board game of life, right? To me, your ass is in the die Glock. That's what this look like, the bottom of a bale. Press what the like button. It's just, that's what it look like. The bottom of a damn bale. But that's neither here or there. They just for a conversation. But yeah, once you start identifying these things, it becomes a lot more clear. Not playing around. You really got to do your research. You really have to wake up. You have to. If not, this in hey, you ever saw the movie Terminator? Kaboom. Because that's that's what you dealing with. Kaboom. Okay, you ever saw it? Okay, total destruction of your civilization. Like the Matrix, when the architect said, we don't destroy this, we don't did tests. It is gonna be destroyed. This gonna be the sixth time, nigga, we don't destroy universe 25. Because there's one definitive in universe 25. It destroys itself. Not that he got any power. No, no, no. Under these conditions, tested on many versions of Universe 25s, nigga. Many dimensions of this sitting in the laboratory, nigga. There's one conclusion, definitive by all of us, all seven of them. you will be destroyed. You will be destroyed. Ain't no other way around it. Without love, there's no hope. Damn. I'm trying to tell you. Without the same type of love that's in the Brown versus the Board of Education, the love I'm talking about, without the acknowledgement and the activation of this, which is this, never been activated, ever. It's a case already won. No, you don't understand. It's a case. It just hasn't been activated. Yeah. It ain't even supposed to be recognized, let alone activated. They want this buried in so much stupid theatrical nonsense that you wouldn't see a beginning form of the antidote right there, staring you smack right in your face. The education of self worth, self determined self worth, mm, self dignity, self respect, self love. Without that, you might as well let O Block be the president in the Senate of the United States of America. Y'all might as well on y'all next voting, y'all just go ahead and get little Muna Duke from O Block. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, get the little light skinned dude. Go ahead, dress him up. Now y'all senators, because this is by far the end. You know, I don't believe it, but I'm saying that's what it would be if this wasn't already done. Only thing people really have to do is something simple, but understanding and recognizing, and not thinking that this is a game or this is some type of. I'm not talking. I'm bringing up the matrix just because of you can understand. But self governance, self agency, self love. We don't gotta even go through integration or all of these little things because it's obvious that looking at Santos from that perspective, looking at Florida and Santos and this Santos and that mentality, they will come down hard on you thinking. So I don't even like to entertain uh, them type of folk. It's a system at play that gives you depression even thinking about self governing. But you sincerely have to be you, governing over one's mind. That's not easy. You dealing with individuals who been who allow Gavin Newsom and people in Chicago to govern over them, and look how that went. Look how that goes. Look how the people depend on them. I mean, really depend on. They go to the same individuals. Now, once did they collectively get together without their funding of state religious order and nonprofit, nothing. Go do y'all thing over there. Nobody does that. They just sit and complain to the same people and come up with myths and ancestors and this one and then what about this and then this and I'm right and you wrong. Not none of them got no investment fund, trust, set up, community building. I was listening to WAC 100 again say Huggies is not going to allow no niggas to open up tissue companies. I said, oh my goodness. With the statistics that it take to come up with a thought like this is the problem. No productivity. Mm-mm. Just sit. Just sit around. I promise you, just sit around and just wait. Wait on something. That's what everybody doing. I can't do it. I can't do my OODA loop would be completely off. I wouldn't know what the hell to do. You got to have a stable mind. You got to have a stable mind. You got to be mentally capable of stability, mental stability, which it takes to have comprehension. And if you want to comprehend things, you got to see it, believe it, know it. Believe it ain't the end part. Now you got to know it. Now you got to walk by faith of knowing that. You got to walk. So that's how I come up and able to talk. Lots of trauma, lots of healing, lots of recognizing, ascension paths, look down. Look what we have here. What a loop. As a collective, you see it from a bird's eye view. You should be in 0 point of the metaverse. Let's take it there. In the metaverse, you should see trolls, nigga, everybody caught in their own glory. Everybody just think they the shit, right? Even what's the little dude with the knot on his head? Down the hall, dude with the Adam's apple on his forehead. We ain't gonna say no name. Don't say his name, but old boy with the Adam's apple on his forehead. Woo! Yeah, man. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Just incredible. But yeah, man. So that's why we developed this. You don't got to do all that to hide yourself. You ain't got to do all that. Recognizing the pattern, knowing when to make choice, bullet time, knowing when to make the proper choice, not so you can be like Neo in the movie The Matrix and get to press one, dodging bullets, literally with your silly self. What I'm saying is, when you're ready, you won't have to press button. That's what I'm saying. When you ready, you won't have to dodge no damn bullets. This is not even a real fight. When you're thinking about Brown versus the Board of Education, combined with the knowledge and wisdom and the spirit of Mr. Motherfucking Gillespie, I mean, it's just, that's like Tupac and Suge Knight. It just make proper sense. It's just death row. I mean, you know what? Hold on. Hold on. I'm saying trapped in trauma and overcoming. They're saying, mm-hmm, that's exactly where they need you to be to hate yourself. Press one, because that's what Universe 25 is created for. It's created for you to hate yourself. That way, if you don't look and see nothing of yourself and see something of them, you will support them because you see something in them. That's a natural thing. But if you don't love yourself, you do that. If you love yourself, you'll reflect that in the world and support yourself. That's mentally, spiritually, and the reflection of yourself, which is other people. Press one, other people who look like you and come from where you come from, who have shown that same you. That's the part of being blessed and passing blessings. Hit the like button and subscribe. That's why I built this lecture. Because this was on my mind, on how it looks, on how it appears from my perspective. right? It's up to you to have a perspective and be able to vocalize a perspective. So what is Kev Gills? A spot. Look, be like that. That way you will have a starting point. Uh 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 Foundation on foundation on foundation, a starting point, and then build from there. How's that? Foundation solid over here. You know, we talking about law, capitis, deminto, maxima, loss of status, identity, and legal standing. Press one within that whole construct of Universe 25, where the mind that cannot fully interpret its environment cannot fully navigate its choices. And a system that does not recognize that limitation cannot fully deliver justice. And we all know Jesus is justice. Justice is the spirit, Jesus is just there. Listen, y'all just missing the cross. The T. Fool. Never mind. We get to hold on. You just all just misinterpret. That was a super bar. That was a world creating bar. I just want you to know that. They'll make a whole YouTube version out of that bar. It'll be a whole character come out of guaranteed. It'll be a whole character come out of that bar. Incredible. Incredible. Sometimes you gotta pat yourself off the back. Off the back. Because justice, watch this one, is not measured by outcome alone. It is measured by the understanding of the outcome. Hit the like button and subscribe. So we're gonna continue these beautiful, beautiful lectures, you know, and holding our composure and staying true to our commitment to KevRow University. Make sure you are a true student, a sponsor of this program. Don't be around here playing, especially as we get started in this grand understanding. We all know what Universe 25 is. If you do not, ask somebody. You should know by now what Universe 25 is and how it was tested on rats. You should already know. They did this test to do what? You need to be able to explain that. What was that test used for? Right? And they playing. I'm not playing. What was the test used for? Little Neos, not Negroes. You are now little Neos. They gonna ask you who you are and shit as a nation. No, 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 nigga, we bunch of Neos, bro. Yeah, sign us up, bro. We Neo. Yeah, we bunch of shit up. You feel me? We living so right that it fucks you up. Bro. What? Little Neos. That's better than Negroes. There ain't nothing called Neomancy, is it? First of all, come on. Come on. That was a joke. That was a joke. Bunch of Neos. Without the G, with the G, without the G, you just a bunch of Negroes. But that boy, Kev, this is hilarious. Just make shit up on the spot, boy. Look, all right, non-compost mentis, fail-proof system. This is the fucking reason, okay? To turn you into a fucking battery, like Morpheus said. Press one to turn your little brain into a little niglet. I'm sorry. Uh, press press one, damn it. To turn us all into little mini me's. Ah, we can only reflect the observer who's doing our observation of the test. You piece of shit. Press one. You don't turn us into you. Lord have mercy. To turn your black brain into this. Everybody doesn't matter. That's why you got to forgive everybody because nobody knows. Like Neo said, nobody knows. If we all knew, we wouldn't be like that towards one another. At all, I guarantee it. Because I know the goodness of people. I know the goodness of the same people who will be horrible towards other people. Mhm. In my life. That's the world I was born in. Universe 25. It's just what it is. You feel me? So you gotta let the bullshit go and think like a scientist, like an observer of life, like your father. You feel me? Think think like an observer, like you got dominion over it all. You gotta think like that. Why? That's the most important thing. Why would you ask me that, bungalow? Let me tell you, that's more important than the food because you got to walk to go get it. You got to. That's the environment you in. Press one, and if you are evaluating it from their standpoint of Universe 25, which is fail proof, I shall say, until Brown versus the Board of Education. See, once that's scientific, what does Brown versus the Board of Education mean in law? And what does it mean in science? It means, nigga, use a piece of shit. That's what it means. It means use a piece of shit for creating the conditions to be for this to even happen. I bet you outside this is so much love and compassion. I bet you the world is big as hell. I bet you the whole world is just big and they got us living in this dumbass little enclosed and got us feeding all, you know what I'm saying? Think of it like that if we was creating a movie. But I'm talking to you because it's in your mind. They created that sequence of events in your mind so that the choices that you make are within the confines of this box of trauma. Your main focus should be melting the ice that you're frozen in, where the trauma occurred to free every individual. You have to go to it's the darkest place. Why? Because the child must be saved. You must go save the child. And when that happens, there you are. But guess what? There's a difference. You know how to speak. You got testimony. You know how to articulate testimony. Oh, you better watch it. You better watch it. Bro. I'm trying to tell you, you got testimony. It's internalized. Remember? So now you can take all that, keep it in there. Don't exert it. Keep it in there. Break all the way down, and boom, all of that. Give it to him. Yeah, because you got somebody to give it to. You believe in God. That's why. Give it to God. Watch how it's translated. Watch how it's given back to you. That giving it back to you sequence is going to develop a awareness of universe 25 of this world that you didn't even know, but did know, but didn't really fully grasp before. So that's what they trying to interpret the Holy Spirit as. They got artificial interpretation. So how could you develop a real rest one? They not even testifying. They just saying, blah, 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 blah. But you got to be able to comprehend these words. So you need an interpreter. That's what the Bible say. Well, what God will give you a sound mind and how to interpret your reality, and then boom, you won't be press one. You bar for bar now. Now is articulate. Now is just knowing. No feelings from that aspect. Stuff still hurt because wounds are visible. Even though it's internalized, wounds are visible. And you need to be able to let that come out in articulation. Let that be your articulation. That's boom, 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 boom. What happened to you? And articulate. That's the objective. is to remove the ice cube that was pumped inside of your ears for you to even think that you was in a thawed position. At any moment, you can remove the cube. Worshiping the cube is worshiping your trauma, regression, keeping your trauma internalized inside so that there is no healing on the outside. But you must speak with a sound, from a sound mind and a clear perspective with clarity. Press one, faith in God. Just say, God, I'm finna speak. Put the right words so that people understand me. Say stuff like that. Yeah, God, please, man. I'm trying to do this the right way, like in your direction. Boom, watch, boom. Now you got strength. Now you gonna realize, oh, I am something. It's crazy, right? So I'm just trying to break down the process. That's why I'm not trying to beat you down. I'm not trying to beat you down. There's no beating down, military beating down. Press one. I'm trying to get you to respond. You stuck your hand in the electric socket and pop, pop. Press one. So they want to know what they white supremacy have done. What have these tests done to you and your family? They need to be able, you need to be able to articulate that you are of sound memory, sound mind, you understand. Hit the like button and subscribe. All right. So to understand, first of all, let me give a shout out to the people who made it to class this morning. Journey, Journey, Journey contributed. Journey A. Shout out to Journey A and Jason Harris. Shout out to the subscribers in my Patreon. Shout out to my sponsors. Journey A says she's sponsoring the program today, y'all. Shout out to Journey A. Whoever you are, God bless you. Thank you so much. I'm sponsoring today, man. Here again. Ma'am, Journey A. I love you, right? I love you. But that's not sponsored. I love I love the intent though. I love it. You did sponsor. Fuck it. You sponsored today. For sure. For sure. I got you. I got you. Then you gave a little extra $2. That's fine. Yeah, I got you. I got you. You did sponsor today. Shout out to shout out to you. That shit make me goofy. Shit like that make me goofy, man. And I'm usually holding in like that used to be my mind. Sir, what? First one. What is this sponsorship you speak of? First one. Hold on, my batteries is low. And then we finna start reading. We on. All right. Ooh, you know, usually it should just cut off around here. All right. Let's get to it. Hold up, let's go. All right. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? All right. All right, Taj, with the 1, 2 cues. All right. I'm glad you understand. I got you. Cool. Mind, noun, cool. All that. Complete sentences, though. We using complete sentences and just listen. Don't you ain't gotta diagnose it. Just listen. So when you type it, it's diagnosing. Don't diagnose it, just feel it. Just feel it. Just understand it. All right. Don't try to describe it. Just understand the knowledge and wisdom. Just sit right there. I got you. I got you. Because this is where I really need it at. Right here. when dealing with these lectures. You know, trapped in trauma, be there. That's all I can say. Trapped in trauma, the releasing of it is understanding how, who, what, word, and why. Non-compos mentis, competency in the disoriented mind has its place. The OODA loop in effect. You feel me? You capacity, write this down. Capacity, competency, and the disoriented mind. Non-compos mentis. All right. And if you never attended KevRow University and you don't know what non-compos mean, go to Taj. Ask Taj. I got something for you, Taj. You're gonna teach this way. But listen, if you're a new student and you need to know non-compos mean, I know Taj know this. He been through this course many times. He is now an assistant. But ask Taj, because Taj want to do some shit. Got you. Got you. Your job is to direct these new students to the fail-proof understanding of the pipeline to prison and how our youngsters, my brothers, my cousins, your brothers, your cousins, nieces, nephews, aunties, uncles, how we all got trapped in this mental matrix I call the X matrix. So don't take it, none of this shit personal. This is about trauma release. We all talking and boom, 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 boom. But the understanding of non-compos mentis, I wrote a book on it. I also done many lectures of many hours on it. Okay, now we're going a little deeper. If you love those types of books, non-compos mentis is an awesome understanding. But now I know what learning a little more. What is it? It's about capacity, competency, and the disoriented mind. All of this I'm trying to tell you is the effects. Now listen to me. All of this is why I talk like this. All of what we've experienced is the effect of non-implementation of none of the recommendations of the Clarks. And I will take it even further that it was done purposely, if not recognized immediately. Nigga, that's cold. That's a cold check, boy. We speak it into existence over here. That's a cold check. You got to analyze that check right there. That's a cold check. It puts you in a different state. Whoa. So even if I bust a move, I'm, mm-hmm. You really checkmate it. But I just like when Sarnetta say, check. I think I like the sound of my own voice when I say this shit. Press one is like I got a cigarette. Check. Like, but I like playing poker. I think that's because I like chicken in poker. Check. See, in poker, it means, pass the plate to the next and check. I wish you can check. Well, you can check in chess because that'll mean you can't move. And then when and then you can't move, then you're checkmated. But if you get really good at checking in poker, you can lure their asses out. Best one and have a full motherfucking hand, or you can just be bullshit. You can be playing. I like both of them. I like playing poker, and then the check in chess is more direct. It's like, okay, you can't do that. But and removing what you did, even addressing it, will mean the same thing. It's still the same conclusion, judgment. So you really ain't got no move after that. But I yelled check. Okay. There's no way out of Brown versus Board of Education, nor is there any way of the effects of not enacting what is the law and what was determined by the justice system. Okay. So, hmm, to understand the depths of the system, we as KevRow University are analyzing what we must know move we must now move from structure into capacity, because no matter how advanced a system becomes, its judgments ultimately rely on one central assumption: that the individual being judged possesses the ability to understand, evaluate, and control their actions. This assumption is so deeply embedded within the legal frameworks that it often goes unquestioned. Yet the law itself has long acknowledged that this assumption does not always hold true. This is where the doctrine of non compos mentis enters. This is not an exception, not as an exception, but as what? A recognition that the human mind is not always operating at full capacity. The long term or the term non compos mentis originates from legal tradition and refers to a person who is not of sound mind and therefore lacks the capacity to manage their own affairs or fully comprehend the consequences of their actions. This is not limited to extreme cases of mental illness. The principle extends to any condition in which reasoning, judgment, and perception is sufficiently impaired. In modern systems, this idea is reflected in competency standards, mental health evaluation, and legal defenses that acknowledge diminished capacity. The law does not treat all minds equally because it recognizes that all minds do not function equally under all conditions. One of the clearest expressions of this principle appears in the case study of Dusky, right, versus the United States. In this decision, the court establishes that competency to stand trial requires not only factual understanding of the proceedings, but also the ability to consult with counsel with a reasonable degree of rational understanding. That this standard is so critical because it moves beyond the surface level of awareness into a functional comprehension. It is not enough to know what is happening. One must be able to meaningfully participate in it. The distinction is where your framework begins to sharpen. Because if competency requires rational understanding and ability to assist in one's own defense, then the question becomes what conditions affect that ability? The law typically evaluates competency on the individual basis, often through clinical assessment. But my argument expands the lens. Okay? We ask whether there is an environmental, social, and systematic condition that can influence cognitive clarity on the broader scale. It raises the possibility that diminished, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up. It raises the possibility that diminished capacity may not always be isolated. It may, under specific conditions, be patternized. Another functional case, Haight versus Robinson, reinforced the courts must actively ensure a defendant is competent and the failure to do so violates due process. This is very significant because it shifts responsibility. Competency is not merely the individual's burden; it is the system's obligation to verify. The system must pause and assess whether a person, therefore, is capable of engaging with the process in a meaningful way. If that assessment is ignored, the legitimacy of the entire proceeding is called into question. Okay. Now consider this principle interacts with environment that may consistently affect perception and reasoning. When individuals are raised or operate under unstable conditions, whether economic, social, or psychological, their decision making framework may develop differently. This does not mean they lack intelligence or potential. It means their interpretation of risk, opportunity, and consequence may be shaped by the conditions that others do not experience. Over time, this shaping becomes embedded in how they process reality as adults. This is where psychology intersects with law. Human behavior is not produced in some vacuum, it is influenced by stress, trauma, exposure, and reinforcement. Okay? When individuals are repeatedly exposed to environments that reward short term survival over long term discipline and planning, their decision making skills adapt accordingly. This adaptation is rational within the context, but it may appear irrational when evaluated outside of it. The system, observing the outcome without the context, may interpret the behavior as deliberate when it is in part conditioning. The law has attempted to address this through doctrines such as diminished capacity, which recognizes that while an individual may have committed an act, their mental state at the time affects the act should be judged. This is not an excuse, it is a calibration. It adjusts the legal response to align with the reality of the individual's cognitive state. However, this calibration is typically applied narrowly on a case by case basis rather than a broader examination of patterns. Your framework, our framework here at KevRow University introduces a more expansive question. Excuse me. What if diminished capacity is not only situational, but cumulative? Cumulative. You know that term? Get the definition. Bring it up to the front of the class, bro. What if repeated exposure to certain conditions create a sustained state of reduced clarity, even in a even in the absence of diagnosable illness? This is where the concept of disorientation becomes very critical, which is a phase in the OODA loop, correct? Disorientation is not the absence of thought. It is the disorientation of interpretation. It is the condition in which perception does not fully align with reality, leading to decisions that are internally consistent but externally misaligned. From a legal standpoint, this presents a challenge. Systems rely on clear categories: competent or incompetent, responsible or not responsible. But human cognition does not always operate within those binary distinctions. There are degrees of awareness, degrees of control, degrees of understanding. When systems attempt to compress these complexities into simplified categories, they risk overlooking the most important nuances. This is why due process even exists. Due process is not merely procedural requirement, but it's a safeguard against oversimplification. It ensures that Individuals are not judged solely on outcome, but are evaluated within the full context of circumstances. It requires the system to pause, to examine, and to verify before reaching conclusions. Without due process, the system becomes purely reactive, responding to events without fully understanding them. And hence, corporations of artificial intelligence may capitalize on that. Okay? This is the problem you have here. Now we begin to see the connection between the lecture and the previous ones that we've created here. This loop creates conditions that can influence what? Behavior. Non compos mentis addresses the capacity, right, of the individual within those conditions. Universe 25. When these two concepts intercept, they raise a critical question. How should responsibility be assigned when behavior is shaped by both environment and cognitive state? This isn't a question with a simple answer, but it is a question that must be asked. The answer is not to eliminate accountability. Accountability remains essential to any functional system, but accountability must be accurate. It must reflect not only what was done, but the conditions under which was done and the capacity of the an individual at the time. Without this accuracy, the system risks applying consequences in ways that do not align with justice. Jesus. This brings us to the broader implication of the framework here at KevRow University. If systems fail to recognize patterns of diminished capacity, they may unintentionally reinforce them by responding to outcomes without addressing the underlying conditions, the root of the problems. They contribute to the continuation of those conditions. The loop remains intact and the behavior that it produces continue to emerge. Okay? In this sense, the failure is not only the individual, it is systematic. The system that does not account for capacity is incomplete. It measures behavior, but it does not fully understand it. It assigns consequences, but does not always evaluate the context. And in doing so, it risks perpetrating the very pattern it seeks to create. That's their AI. This is where restoration begins, right here at KevRow. Restoration is not about removing the structure, it's about the refinement process of it. It is about ensuring the systems are capable of distinguishing between informed decision making and constrained reaction. This is about integrating legal standards, psychological understanding, and human judgment into a more complete framework, spirit, per se. Mind that cannot, again, again, a mind that cannot what? Fully interpret its environment, cannot fully navigate its choices. Okay? So we're moving right along. And that's non compos mentis. And I'm sure that will be maximized because we're still building upon that. Okay? But this is moving into capitis dimentio maximum in Roman civil law. Okay? This is where Universe 25 here must be understood by KevRow University. All students, all students must understand non-competence, the five books, even to get this. Okay. So this concept, capitis, I know they're asking, what is that, Kev? Capitis dimentio maximum. Okay. Break it down into English. The loss of status identity, and legal standing due to what? What did we just talk about? Non compos mentis. Okay? Okay? So you lose yours in non compos mentis. You lose what? Status. You are black in Roman civil law. That's why I say that stuff. Identity and legal standing. You didn't know that, but you do now. Yes. And you've been out, and this government has been operating in that this whole time. You just doesn't, we as a collective, as a family, we don't know that. Okay. So the loss of status, identity, and legal standing. This is law. Okay. So now that we move on from non-compost mentors, we move from capacity, which is non-compost, to status, black in law. Because in law, what you are able to do, press one, is only half the equation. What you are recognized as, whether your actions carry weight within the system. A person may think, speak, and act, but if the system does not recognize their standing, their ability to affect outcomes becomes limited. This is the distance between existence and recognition. And in legal doctrine, recognition is, excuse me, I said recognition because it is. You know the term as recognition, but it's really recognition. Super duper bar. I apologize. I speak on many dimensions. All right. Was not about behavior, it was about status. Okay. What you are recognized as determines whether your actions carry weight within this system. Okay? A person may think, speak, and act, but if the system does not recognize, press one, their standing, their ability to affect outcomes becomes limited. This is the distance between existence and recognition. And in legal doctrine, recognition is everything. The concept of capitis dimentatio maxima originates from Roman civil law, it represents the most severe form of status reduction. Okay, so we're talking about black people under Roman civil law, and that's what they meant by the bottom. Okay, that's what we mean by the bottom. Okay, they're Romans. Okay, all of them are Romans. So y'all go over there. Y'all go on the other side of the auditorium. Hold on. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. This is the part. This is the part. All right. All Romans go on that side. Go on that side of the auditorium. Stand up now. All of them. Y'all go on that side of the auditorium. If there's anything wrong with you, I just want to gauge my audience per se. Well, Mr. Gillespie, this is beautiful. Oh my goodness. We're gonna separate the wheats from. I'm just playing. I ain't gonna do y'all like that. Yeah, I mean, I understand the offer to the death. I understand. Don't worry. I got something for you. I got something for you. All right. Originates from Roman Moorish civil law. Ah, fucking ridiculous. Tartaria. Listen. All right. All right. All right. Calibrate, Mr. Gillespie. Calibrate. All right. It originates from Roman civil law and represents the most severe form of status reduction. It is not merely a penalty, it was a transformation. Under this condition, an individual lost what? Now, excuse me, what did the individual lose? The black person? All right. Freedom, their citizenship, and their family identity, their lineage. They are no longer the same legal person in the eyes of the system within they live in. Their rights were altered, their voices was diminished, and their standings were redefined. This was not about behavior. This was about status. Roman law recognized three levels of status: liberty, citizenship, and family. When all three of these statuses were removed from my people, the individuals experienced capitis dementio maxima. This meant they were no longer able to operate within the legal framework as they once had. They could not assert the same rights, enter the same relationships, or access the same protections under the law. Their identity, as recognized by the system, had fundamentally changed to black. Fade to black, Jay Z said. Now, I need you to understand this clearly. Status in law is not symbolic, it is functional. It's not a myth, it's real. It determines whether a person can bring claims, defend themselves, enter contracts, or be recognized as a participant in legal proceedings. Without status, participation becomes limited. Without recognition, voice becomes ineffective. This is why status is one of the most powerful constructs within any legal system on earth. In modern legal system, we do not use the exact terminology as they do under Roman civil law. We call it federal civil law. But the concept of status remains embedded. Terms such as citizen, resident, minor, competent adult, and legally incapacitated individuals all reflect different levels of recognition. Each classification carries with it a specific set of rights, responsibilities, and limitations. The system does not treat all individuals identically. It operates based on defined categories. This is where our framework here at KevRow University introduces a critical new perspective. We're examining not only how status is assigned, but how it may be experienced in practice. Hmm. The question becomes, are there conditions under which individuals may have formal status but limited functional access to rights associated with that status? In other words, can there be a gap between what is recognized on paper and what is experienced in reality? This question is not without precedent. Legal history includes numerous moments where formal recognition existed, but practical asset access was constrained. The evaluation of civil rights law in the United States reflects these tensions. Cases such as Plessy versus Ferguson, what? Upheld systems that were late. Wait a minute. Hold up. Hold up. Ah, we getting to it. Cases such as Plessy versus Ferguson upheld systems that were later challenged and overturned because their application produced unequal outcomes. This structure existed, but its execution was flawed. But the reversal of such doctrines, most notably what I bring up here, Brown versus the Board of Education, the glitch in the matrix. demonstrates that the legal systems are capable of what? Self correction. But that self correction does not occur automatically, it requires recognition. It requires recognition that the current application of the law is inconsistent with its intended principles. It requires examination from outside the loop. Now we connect this back to what? Our thesis. If status determines recognition and recognition determines participation, then any limitation in how an individual is able to engage with the system affects their outcomes. This does not require formal removal of status. It can occur through barriers that affect understanding, access, or navigation. The results of this condition, where the individual exists within the system, cannot fully operate within it. This is where the concept of functional status becomes important. Functional status refers to the actual ability of an individual to exercise their right in practice, not in theory. A person may have the legal right to defend themselves, but they cannot understand the process, access resources, or effectively communicate that right is limited in practice. The distinction between theoretical rights and practical access is very critical. Legal systems attempt to address this through safeguards such as representation, counsel, and procedural protections. The right to counsel, for example, is a recognition that the individual not be may not be able to navigate legal processes alone. This principle was reinforced where in case law, Gideon versus Waldright. See, Kev don't got you. When established that defendants have the right to legal representation even if they cannot afford it. This is the acknowledgement that the access is necessary for fairness. However, even with such safeguards, disparities can remain. Access to quality representation, understanding of legal process, and the ability to engage effectively can vary significantly. The variation does not negate the existence of rights, but it affects how those rights are experienced. This is where the difference between formal equity and practical equity becomes evident. Now consider how this interacts with the concept of capacity. Press one. That's from non-compos mentis. Okay. It if the individual's ability to understand and navigate the system is influenced by cognitive or environmental factors, and their ability to exercise rights depends on that understanding, then capacity and status becomes interconnected. A limitation in one affects the functions of the other. This is where the framework of KevRow University reaches the strongest point. We are not just claiming that status has been universally removed. We are examining whether it was fully recognized and realized. We are asking whether systems account for this gap between recognition and access. What I'm suggesting is that when this gap is not addressed, outcomes, what outcomes may reflect limitations rather than intention. From a legal standpoint, this requires careful framing. This argument is not that individuals are without rights, but that the effective exercise of those rights may be influenced by factors that systems do not always fully account for. This is a matter of analysis, not assertion. Okay, it invites what? Examination rather than conclusion. All right. So I'm gonna stop it there because this is awesome, and I'm glad that people are responding. All right. So yes, Shiva deals with disenfranchisement comes with and comes from this. So without the gap that I'm talking about is since Brown versus the Board of Education has been this huge gap. That gap, lives were existed within there. Cultures started. Genocide happened in that gap. And that gap must be examined right now and enacted right now. That's what I was saying earlier. It still hasn't been enacted. And that's a problem. And that's criminal. You know why? Because they knew the outcome. It was tested, just like Universe 25 was tested. So, talking about this in our class, KevRow University, God bless y'all. Shout out to the people like Journey, Taj, Cedric Jefferson, Jason Harris, who are sort of comprehending what we talking about here. We're gonna keep these long conversations going, and I hope y'all tune in tomorrow right here. This is the conclusion of KevRow University class. Today we've been on the air for 2 hours and 37 minutes. Yes, what a time it is to be alive. And we will continue. Tomorrow is the word, is the law. So I'll be doing both things simultaneously given the day. So get your books ready. Make sure you got your notebook, notepads titled correctly. Do not misconstrue either of the two. Listen for the titles. Know what you're taking notes on. Be ready to speak at the end of the semester to give at least your perception on what this failed system is. Coffee and Kush TV, KevRow. I love y'all. And as always, family, I'll holla.